Beyond Success: How Black Entrepreneurship Redefines Power, Purpose, and Possibility. Thank you all for being here today. Before I dive in, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary individual whose insights have fundamentally transformed my understanding of entrepreneurship and leadership. Shawna Solomon is not just an award winning CEO and brand strategist who has built influential ventures like Brand Properly and Shop Statement Pieces. She is a visionary who has dedicated her life to dismantling barriers for Black entrepreneurs, creating pathways where none existed, and redefining what success looks like for an entire community. Her work doesn't just build businesses, it builds legacies, reshapes narratives, and heals generational wounds. In a world that often tries to limit the dreams and ambitions of Black professionals, Shauna stands as a beacon of possibility, illuminating the path forward with both brilliance and grace. When we talk about entrepreneurship in America, we're typically fed a very specific narrative: the lone genius working out of a garage, the college dropout who becomes a billionaire, the overnight success story that captures headlines and imaginations. These stories aren't just incomplete, they're dangerous. They perpetuate the myth that entrepreneurship is primarily about individual achievement, technological disruption, or financial gain. But what if I told you that the most powerful form of entrepreneurship has nothing to do with unicorn valuations or exit strategies? What if true entrepreneurship is actually about resilience in the face of systemic rejection, about creating community wealth when traditional doors remain closed, about transforming personal pain into collective power? This is the revolutionary truth I discovered through my conversations with Shauna and other Black entrepreneurs. For them, entrepreneurship isn't just a career path, it's an act of resistance, reclamation, and radical reimagining of what's possible. Today, I want to challenge everything you think you know about entrepreneurship by sharing three transformative insights that will forever change how you understand success, leadership, and legacy. First, resilience isn't just a trait, it's a foundational skill that can be deliberately cultivated and strategically deployed. Second, community isn't an optional support system, it's the essential infrastructure that makes sustainable success possible. And third, bold, self aware leadership isn't about personal achievement, it's about creating space for others to rise. Let's begin with resilience. Imagine this scene: a couple sits across from a loan officer in a bank. They're well prepared, business plan meticulously crafted, market research thoroughly conducted, financial projections carefully calculated. They want to open a gymnastics studio in their community. They've done everything right. And yet, the answer is no. This wasn't hypothetical. This happened 35 years ago to Shauna Young's parents. The reason for rejection wasn't stated explicitly, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Their race made them too risky for traditional financing. Now, conventional wisdom would suggest several options: give up, try a different bank, pursue a different dream. Instead, they chose a fourth path, one that required extraordinary resilience. They pooled their personal savings, they rallied their community, they leveraged every resource at their disposal. And against all odds, they opened that gymnastics studio. Not only did their business thrive for decades, but it became a beacon in their community, a physical manifestation of what's possible when rejection becomes redirection rather than defeat. This story reveals something profound about resilience. It isn't some innate quality that some people mysteriously possess. It's a skill developed through deliberate practice. It's a muscle strengthened through repeated use. It's a strategy refined through application. For Black entrepreneurs, this resilience isn't optional, it's essential. The journey involves navigating systems that weren't designed for their success, overcoming barriers others never face, and creating opportunities where none existed before. But here's the transformative insight: this necessity becomes advantage. The very obstacles meant to limit become catalysts for innovation. The rejections meant to discourage become fuel for determination. The closed doors meant to exclude become invitations to build something entirely new. This brings me to my second insight: the essential power of community. We live in a culture obsessed with the myth of the self made individual, the lone wolf who succeeds against all odds, the exceptional outlier who needs no one. This narrative isn't just false, it's harmful. It denies the fundamental truth that no one succeeds alone. I witnessed this truth powerfully illustrated at the Guardian Summit, where Black entrepreneurs gathered not just to network, but to forge strategic alliances. This wasn't your typical business conference with superficial card exchanges and hollow promises to do lunch. This was a deliberate space created to address a specific challenge: the isolation and limited access to strategic networks that many Black professionals face. Participants engaged in intentional conversations that transcended small talk. They shared vulnerable truths about their struggles. They exchanged actionable strategies for overcoming common barriers. They formed partnerships based on complementary strengths. They clarified their visions through collective wisdom. The results were extraordinary. Community ties strengthened, business growth accelerated, a culture of mutual support flourished. Most importantly, a powerful alternative to the competitive zero sum mentality that dominates business discourse emerged. This example reveals that community isn't just about emotional support, though that's certainly valuable. It's about creating ecosystems where resources, knowledge, and opportunities can be shared and multiplied. It's about recognizing that when we lift each other up, we all rise higher. As Shauna emphasized in our conversation, these connections must be intentional and strategic. It's not just about expanding your network, it's about building relationships with purpose and clarity. It's about finding the people who complement your strengths, challenge your thinking, and share your values. This collaborative approach stands in stark contrast to the competitive, individualistic thinking that often dominates business discourse. It recognizes that true success isn't about outperforming others, it's about creating value together. This brings me to my third insight: the transformative power of bold, self aware leadership, taking up space, leading with confidence, owning your narrative. These aren't just inspirational phrases, they're vital strategies for breaking barriers and creating lasting impact. Shawna Solomon's journey exemplifies this principle perfectly. As she navigated the competitive branding industry, she could have focused solely on building her own success. Instead, she leveraged her expertise to create platforms that amplify other Black voices and provide actionable branding strategies for entrepreneurs who have been historically marginalized. Her passion for empowering others and commitment to changing the narrative around Black entrepreneurship has helped countless business owners build bold brands and increase their market presence. Her work has empowered other Black professionals to take up space and lead with confidence. This is what bold, self aware leadership looks like. It's not just about achieving personal success, It's about using that success to create opportunities for others. It's about recognizing the systemic barriers that exist and actively working to dismantle them. It's about understanding that your voice matters not just for what you say, but for who it empowers to speak up next. Self awareness is the critical foundation of this leadership approach. It requires honest reflection about your strengths and limitations. It demands recognition of the privileges you hold and the barriers you face. It calls for alignment between your values and your actions. When leadership is both bold and self aware, it creates ripples that extend far beyond any single organization or initiative. It inspires others to step into their own power. It challenges norms and expectations. It creates new possibilities for what leadership can look like. These three insights, resilience as a foundational skill, community as essential infrastructure, and bold, self aware leadership as a catalyst for change, offer a powerful framework for reimagining entrepreneurship. Together, they challenge us to think differently about what it means to be successful. They invite us to consider how our individual journeys connect to broader movements for equity and opportunity. They remind us that entrepreneurship can be a powerful vehicle not just for personal advancement, but for community transformation. So, where do we go from here? I believe we stand at a critical crossroads. We can continue to perpetuate narratives about entrepreneurship that celebrate individual achievement at the expense of collective well being. We can maintain systems that make resilience necessary for some while making success effortless for others. We can accept leadership models that concentrate power rather than distribute it. Or we can choose a different path. We can recognize that the most powerful entrepreneurship happens at the intersection of personal passion and community need. We can build systems that make resilience a choice rather than a requirement. We can embrace leadership approaches that create space for many voices rather than amplifying just a few. The choice is ours, and it's a choice we make not just once, but every day. In how we define success, in how we build community, in how we exercise leadership. I challenge you to leave here today and ask yourself, how will I use my own story, not just my successes, but my setbacks to create new possibilities for others? What systems am I participating in that require unnecessary resilience from some while granting unearned advantage to others? How can I lead in ways that create space rather than take it up? Your answers to these questions won't just shape your individual path, they'll contribute to a fundamental reimagining of entrepreneurship, one that centers resilience, community, and bold leadership as pathways, not just to personal success, but to collective liberation. The world doesn't need more self made millionaires. It needs more community made change makers. It doesn't need more unicorn startups. It needs more phoenix businesses that rise from the ashes of systemic rejection. It doesn't need more CEOs concerned only with shareholder value. It needs more visionary leaders committed to stakeholder transformation. The future of entrepreneurship isn't about building bigger businesses, it's about building better worlds. And that future begins with you, with me, with all of us, choosing to redefine what entrepreneurship can and should be. Thank you.